an illegal alien who is a non-citizen, and they broke the law to get here, they should have the right to vote. Are you saying that, just to be clear?
I'm saying I think that, firstly, I'd like to scratch that question. Like, I'm not really comfortable with that question, but just to understand what you're asking for, is that something we can do? Can we scratch that?
Yeah, Kelly?
Can we scratch that question?
What do you mean scratch it?
That wasn't on like the list of questions that you guys sent.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. So in this video, we're going to watch another Jesse Lee Peterson interview because we have absolutely been getting entertained by Jesse lately, and it's always fun to watch his interviews. But he's going to interview this young lady right here. I'm not exactly sure who she might be, but he's going to ask her if illegal aliens should be able to vote. And for some reason, that question was the question that that got her to want to quit, right? She could not answer the question at all. And it's a simple question. But anyway, let's not waste any time. Get straight into the video.
There's a lot of talk about the voter ID laws.
Yes.
And we heard a lot about it in this last election.
Yeah.
And what do you think about the voter ID laws? Is there a problem with them?
Oh, absolutely. It's abysmal. It's abysmal. And it's amazing to me that to have come so far, to be very quickly headed back to where we came from is terrifying.
When you say headed back, what do you mean?
So, I mean, to go from, the Voting Rights Act in the 60s, I have a sister, my older sister was born around that time. She'd hate me if I exposed her real age, but she was born around that time, long enough to, around then to tell me, what it was like to grow up when legislation like that was implemented. My parents, the same thing, to now think that in my lifetime, we're still fighting some of those same battles. I think that it's cowardly for, Republican state houses and all of them, all state houses who have enacted voter ID laws since 2014 have been all Republican state houses.
Right.
And I think that it's cowardly for them to preach on one hand and feel so confident that their message resonates with Black and brown communities, with marginalized communities, and then enact legislation that further suppresses their ability to align with the people who they say that they feel so confident in aligning with. I think that anytime you limit access and equity, particularly in the United States of America, I think you've got to have a moral conversation with yourself.
If I'm thinking about this correctly, voter ID laws mean that you have to show an ID in order to vote, right?
Yes.
I don't understand what's the problem with that. What's wrong with because we have so many illegals here now. Mm-hmm. We have people coming into the country who are not citizens. What's wrong with, and especially with Black people, what's the problem with showing an ID in order to vote? How is that hurting them?
So I don't have an issue with needing to verify your identification, but I would just like it to be consistent across the board. Meaning there are certain states, I believe North Carolina was one of them, where at Texas, Louisiana, I can continue going on, where they have enacted laws where only certain specific pieces of identification are allowed and will be, verified. So a state issue ID will not be, but a passport will be. A student ID card from the university that you attend will not be.
Is it difficult for college kids?
I mean, it should be that way because it's, especially when you're voting federally, right? If you're voting for on federal elections, then you should provide a federal ID. Now, I mean, I think a state ID should be sufficient, and I think it is because when I voted this past election, I only had to show my Texas driver's license, and that was pretty much it. And that's what I really don't understand about this whole voter ID thing. And you guys can kind of educate me here. Are they asking to have, is the legislation asking to create a separate ID, like a separate voter ID, separate from passports and driver's licenses? Or are they saying that we're going to require that you show an ID, right? Because it's very confusing. I really don't know much about it. From what I'm assuming, it sounds like it's a separate ID, a voter ID, which I'm okay with. Or if it's just a driver's license or a passport, I'm okay with that as well, because we already do that. You already have to show your driver's license or passport to be able to vote. So it's really confusing.
To get a state issued ID?
It is not. It is. I mean, I think difficult. You have to get into a gray area, right? Like difficult.
Yeah.
Is it easily accessed? Probably not as simple. I know what it's like to be a person who owns her own business and has to go to the DMV in Los Angeles, and I know I don't go to the DMV. I know I go to AAA.
Right, I go there too.
And you go to AAA for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Because the DMV and some of those social services, it's difficult for us to get the kind of service that we need that falls in line with the things that we have to do during the day. What my point about voter ID, what makes it so abysmal, is that it's like playing a game with equity and access to our rights. Voting is a right. So to create all of these different checks, to me, when addresses and identity can be easily verified, to me is just silly.
I've noticed, and I don't know if you're a Democrat or Republican, I have to assume a Democrat since you're a liberal, right? You tend to vote Democrat. Mm-hmm. I noticed that it's the Democrats who are always complaining about the ID, voting ID issue. And yeah, it's the Democrats' ID laws, but it's the Democrats who tend to get caught voting 2 and 3 times in different states, or voting for dead people, or voting for voting for crazy folks.
But I've never heard of those cases.
Yeah,
Could you tell me?
Ohio, I believe, one state that found a woman, or caught some woman, black woman, who had voted like 2 or 3 different times in different states.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
I don't know. I haven't heard about that, but the last couple cases of voter fraud that I did hear about that had to do with IDs and being registered in multiple cases were from 4 people within Trump's cabinet. So I haven't heard about any Democrats.
Yeah.
Though.
Do you personally believe that a person should have to show an ID in order to vote, or should they be able to just walk in there and vote?
I think that people that you should have to verify your identity.
And how would you do that?
I think that's a tough question, because different states have different requirements for identification that they accept. I just don't think that government IDs should be, told. I don't know. I'm losing my train of thought.
Yeah, relax. You want some water? Yeah.
Thank you.
That's one beauty of
I don't think. Okay, here we go. I don't think that government IDs should be disqualified. I don't think that we should try to find alternative forms of identification when we have some already that are in place.
Yeah.
And furthermore, I don't think that there should be any changes to voter identification and the system thereof, because if you look at the numbers and the statistics and the occasions where there have been voter fraud or voter issues, it has not been because people walked up and tried to vote illegally. In fact, I think there were 2 cases during the campaign cycle in Texas, both of registered Republicans who did go in person and got arrested for trying to vote twice. So,
There is one thing that I think is a negative image of Black Americans, and I hear it in the media a lot, especially during voting season. They say that Black people should not have to show an ID in order to vote. And they say, well, because some Blacks, they can't get down to the DMV, or they can't do this or that. And it makes Black people seem dumb and kind of lazy and out of it, to take away that responsibility. And I don't like that, because, Blacks are smart. They can take care of business. In Georgia, they were even, I believe it's Georgia, they would even go to your house and register you for an ID. What do you think about that image that they put out there about Blacks when it comes to voting? The ID, voting ID, voters ID.
Right. Well, firstly, I want to be very careful when talking about issues of equity and access, that we don't attribute false narratives to to that. You know, I think that is it true that marginalized and disenfranchised communities have difficulty adjusting their already tight schedules with all of their responsibilities to you know, add another thing to their day to go and, you know, wait in line at a social service, you know, place like the DMV.
Some cases they'll come to you.
If they can come to them, I think that that's a great thing.
Right.
But I think that we need to be careful in attributing things. Like I don't. When I hear narratives like you said, I don't attribute those to what I know to be Black America. That's not the Black America.
You know, you
that
hear
I know.
the NAACP and others talking about Black folks and that we shouldn't have to require them to go out and get an ID in order to vote. And so in some states they made it easier so that the folks can go to you and register you to get an ID, and yet they didn't seem to like that. Are you embarrassed that Blacks are presented in that way?
I'm not embarrassed because I'm not embarrassed by that. I think that's, do I reject narratives that I feel like do not accurately depict my people? Yes.
Well, let's pause there for a second. So why do these people always believe that when we talk about voter ID or showing ID to vote, that it is automatically going to disenfranchise Black people and marginalized people and people of color, right? Why do they always resort to that? And the excuse that she made for people or Black people having to go over this hurdle is that Black people are too busy, right? Their lives are too busy to go get an ID to vote, where you already have to register to vote anyway. So if you have to register to vote, your registration should come with an ID, in my opinion. That's how it should be handled. But she doesn't make that excuse or that argument for white people, right? I wonder if Jesse was to ask her that, hey, you know, are white people too busy also to go get their licenses, right? Are they or another ID? I wonder what her response would be. But they never attribute these types of laws being in the way of white people, but it is always getting in the way of Black people for some reason, and it makes no sense, right? It makes no sense at all. The only thing that I can think of is that Black people are not capable, they're not smart enough, right? They can't get up and go to the DMV or fill out a little piece of paperwork to get an ID. Right, that's what I believe, and that's what I believe liberals believe as well. But anyway, like the video, guys. It really helps the channel out. Let's get back into the video.
I do reject those narratives, but
no, go ahead.
But I don't. You know, I think that when I hear the NAACP coming out and talking against people having to go get an additional ID, what I think they're specifically talking about are signing up for an actual ID card that is just for voting that they've created in some of these states as, again, another check, you know, or a failed check to verify people's identity. And if you don't sign up in time before the election to get this specific voter card, then you're unable to vote. And that's what I was saying, where I feel like if you already have government issued ID, that should be just as fine to verify who you are instead of having to go a third or fourth step.
Are you a Christian?
I am. Mm-hmm.
You're a Christian. Do you think illegal aliens in this country should have the right or be able to vote?
I think if they are contributing tax-paying citizens, I think that they should have an opportunity to participate in civic life and be civically engaged. I think that there should be a pathway to you know, and you know, of course, the nuances of all that you have to kind of work out. But I do think that any contributing member of a society should have the opportunity to participate in said society. And
so you, if I'm hearing you correctly, you believe that an illegal alien who is a non-citizen, and they broke the law to get here, they should have the right to vote. Are you saying that, just to be clear?
I'm saying I think that firstly, I'd like to scratch that question. Like, I'm not really comfortable with that question, but just to understand what you're asking for, is that something we can do? Can we scratch that?
Yeah, Kelly?
Can we scratch that question?
What do you mean scratch it?
That wasn't on like the list of questions that you guys sent.
Well, it's about voting ID laws.
But you're asking me if an illegal alien should have the right to vote?
Yeah.
Hey, why don't we just move on?
Yeah, I don't really want to answer that question.
You don't want to answer that? Mm-mm. And why not?
I mean, to give a justification if she'd like to move on to the next question.
Who's her hand?
I mean, when Kelly and I went over before this, kind of
Is that a bad question?
It's not a bad question, but I think it's complicated, and I think that I mean, it, you know,
See why we can't just move on to the next question.
can we just move on to the next question? Is that possible?
Okay, you don't have to answer you want. You definitely.
Okay.
Let's see here. I just lost my stuff here. I hit the wrong. So you don't want to answer that, huh?
Well, because here's the thing, right? Like, I obviously believe in a pathway to citizenship. I think that,
Right, and I understand it's a different question. I understand that.
I think the way that you're
citizenship.
asking the question, though, is what frames it odd for me. Do I believe an illegal alien should have the right to vote?
Right.
Not while they're an illegal alien, but I think that.
Actually, you answered the question already.
So.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't think that. I think that contributing members of society should find a way to participate in civic life. One of the things that I talk about all the time is that civic engagement. Being civically engaged does not mean that you just participate at the voting box, in the ballot box. And I think that there's opportunities for those who are undocumented in our community to participate and be civically engaged and be counted while they are on their pathway to citizenship, where they can, legally participate at the ballot box.
Okay. I do want to say, any question that you have a right not to answer a question. So you're not you're not going to jail.
Yeah, so we're going to stop it right there. What a walking contradiction. But you notice how her handler tried to step in and get her to not answer the question, because at first when she responded, she definitely exposed herself, right? By saying, well, I believe if they're a contributing member of society, that they should be able to vote, right? And most people say that illegal aliens are paying into taxes. So that alone should qualify them to be able to vote. And then again, when he pressed her on it, she said what she truly believes, right? I don't know if you caught that. She said, well, if they're still illegal, they shouldn't be able to vote. And then her handler stepped in again and she said, well, I believe she already answered that question. And when her handler stepped in, she changed her answer. She said, well, if they're a contributing member of society, they should be able to engage in civil activities or whatever, right? Because she wanted to say the safe answer for whoever her audience is or whoever, pays her, essentially, because I'm not really sure who this woman is. But it seems like she is some type of either like social justice activist or some type of woke, I don't know, influencer or something like that, where she has probably mostly leftist audience. So she had to give the response that the leftists would appreciate, right? But also be a little bit more reasonable, so Jesse doesn't cook her on this interview, because he was going to. He was absolutely going to. And that's why she wanted to get away from that question as quickly as possible. What an embarrassment. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed and got as much entertainment as I did. Let's talk about it in the comment section. Hit the like button at the bottom, guys. It really helps the channel out. And of course, if you're brand new, consider hitting subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.